welcome to my YouTube channel. So this morning I'm up in Glen, Etive, up in Glen. I'm trying to locate an old, it's not an old, waterfall I found a few years ago. Because as we were driving up, the river Etive is really low. It's actually the lowest I've ever seen it. So I'm hoping that this small waterfall that comes off the mountain actually has water and we can get some decent photographs. So anyway, let's follow me this morning. Let's see where the journey takes us and hopefully we can get some nice photographs. Well, I found a waterfall. I don't recall it being the waterfall that I was looking for, but what I'm going to do is, well, take some shots from this high elevation. I've put my polarizer on because what I want to do is take the glare off the water. Even although it is overcast, I just want to make sure that I've got the best composition and I get the best opportunity here. I can't go too close to the side because I just fall off the edge of the gorge. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and position this camera so that you can see what I'm actually taking photographs of. Right, so I've moved that camera right to the very edge, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing and hopefully you've got the waterfall in view. So I'm turning the camera over into a portrait mode, and then I'll adjust the polarizer to make sure I've got the detail in the rocks. That's a really nice image actually. And I'll take that shot. I'm still at a 15th of a second f11 and I've got my ISO up to 200. So I'm just going to double check that water because I actually don't want the water to be too milky. I want the water to be streaky, which I've got. So I'm going to zoom in now and I'll zoom in further. What I want to try and do is get the waterfall coming in from the top left of the composition to flow down to the right. Oh, and I'm getting eaten alive with midges. And then what I want then is the base of the waterfall then to follow the river down out of the bottom left hand side of my image. So we're flowing from top left to the right and then down. So again, I'm going to have to double check my focus. I'll focus in on the top of the waterfall. I might have to brighten this up a bit, and I'll just double check the polarizer's in the right place. It is. I'll take that shot again, and with it being f11 I don't need to do a focus stack because I'm getting the distance from front to back. Now I'll just see if I can move around. I'm just checking to see if this would be quite a nice panoramic image. So I'm going to try and do a panoramic image here. I'll zoom out just a bit. The other thing here, there's at the base of the waterfall, I'm just going to turn this back to landscape. At the base of the waterfall there's also a really nice image. In fact, I'm just going to take a shot here because as I've turned the camera back up to landscape and I've zoomed in, there's actually quite a nice shot from a landscape point of view. I'm just making sure I've focused in on the top. I'm just double checking the polarizer, obviously because we had it set at portrait mode. I'll take the shot and the midges are here to stay, I think. A nice wee breeze would really help. So I'm going to zoom down. I'm just going to get as many shots as I can from this elevation because there's a tree that's sitting right in front of the falls Now the wee challenge I've got is it's a nice tree. I've got the falls, but I've got this branch on the right hand side also coming through, and I'll need to go back to the car and get the smidge. So if I focus in on the tree, we've got some movement in the tree. There's a wee breeze down there. I'm just going to double check there's no motion. Yeah, that's a nice image. Alright, so that's the falls from this elevation. What I'll do now is I'll walk up the top of the waterfall and I'll try and cross over to the other side and then work my way down into the gorge and then try and take as many photos as I can from underneath the waterfall. Alright, so I've managed to work my way down to the base of the falls. Now let me get set up. The wee friendly midges are back. So I'm now up to a faster shutter speed at a 30th of a second, f8 ISO 500. I'm just checking the water again just to make sure. Yep, I like that. So, what I might do is just do a quick exposure compensation. So there's quite a lot of photo opportunities in this area now. So it allows me to move around. It's a wee bit deep there, but it allows me to move around the rocks on the right hand side. And then that way I can get different angles, different viewpoints. I'm just zooming out of the waterfall just now. I'm going to just refocus, because the good part about being here is I don't need to keep adjusting the polarizer because I know where the polarizer should be. I'm just checking that image. Yep, take one more. That's a nice image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over into portrait, and the reason I'm doing that is I want to try and capture the water that's flowing down right in front of me past these rocks. So what I might do is get more of the rocks in the foreground. Oh, that's a really nice image. So now if I zoom in, I've just double checked my polarizer. If I zoom in on the waterfall, so this shot I will probably have to do a focus stack. Right, so if I zoom out, what I'm going to do is take another composition, but I want to get the waterfall in the far left hand side. There's a couple of rocks in front of me that are fantastic for foreground interest. I've just double checked the polarizer. Yep. I'm actually double checking everything because the last time round there was a few things I forgot. So I'll take this one shot because I know I'm focused at the top of the falls. I'm just going to check because I want to make sure I've got detail in the rocks at the front. Yeah, I've got detail. Yeah, I have got detail. So what I might do is a quick exposure compensation for that one. Now I've got the shot. And then what I'll do now is I'll take a wider angle shot and I'll turn back to landscape, and from this focal point that's quite a nice composition as well. So I've got the waterfall coming in on the left. I'll adjust the polarizer back. I've got the waterfall coming in on the left, I've got all these rocks on the right hand side, so as the water's coming down it's sweeping past me on the left hand side. I'm just going to double check my focal points. I'm going to focus into the centre of the image, closest to the waterfall that I can. Okay, so I've moved over to this side. Whoops! That was a wee bit slippy. I've moved to this side of the waterfall, and I'm just going to get a face-on view of the falls. It's just a different composition, face-on. Now, I'm just trying to see, I actually think the portrait mode would be better. Yeah, so if I zoom out, zoom back in, I'm just trying to figure out what's the nicest composition here. So I'm going to take a few from this location, only because I'm probably not going to walk back here. Other than I might move a wee bit closer just to get a close-up shot of the falls. So at the moment, I've got all these rocks in front of me in the foreground, and the waterfall looks pretty small. So I'm just double checking again where I've positioned the polarizer, because I don't want a lot of reflections in the water, because the water's so clear. The stones underneath are so saturated, the colours are amazing. So I'm just going to focus, for my first shot, I'm just going to focus on the falls. And then what I'll do is, I will do a focus stack, but I'll spare you the time. There's also other compositions. So as I was crossing the small river at the top of the waterfalls, there's some beautiful views on the way back, and there's some wild rhododendrons that add some nice pink and purple colour to the image. So when I'm finished taking photographs down here, I'll move up to the top of the waterfall and follow the river up a little bit further, and because there's some really nice images to be had up there, because the water here is so clear. It's really, really beautiful. So I'm just going to turn this over now, because what I saw was the water flowing down in front of me between the rocks, and I'm just trying to see if I can zoom in, because there's a big rock in front of me, and it might make quite a nice little abstract-ish shot, but I'll need to lower the ISO and darken. So I've lowered the ISO to ISO 320. I've still got 30th of a second in f8. I've adjusted my polarizer. I'm going to focus in on that water there. There's another image. So there is another image with the base of the falls. So what I've got here is, I've got the foreground interest of these rocks. Now I don't know if this is actually going to work out as a nice photograph, but from a composition point of view, I've got a whole bunch of layers here. So I've got, at the tip of my image, I've got the dark pool of water where the waterfall's going into. I've then got a lighter brown image, and then in the foreground I've got all these rocks. So I'm just going to focus in on the centre of the image. I'll go back and just double check my positioning of the polarizer. That's fine. I'll take up the ISO to 400, take this shot. Yes, I don't know if this is going to work. It's just the water at the bottom of the falls. I might be able to crop that out actually. Right, so what I was going to try and do was lower the tripod and just see if I could get a shot between those rocks, but I think that might be a wee bit too ambitious for the tripod. Don't think it'll go down that low from where I'm positioned. But what I might try and do is if I put my camera there, extend that leg just so I can move my tripod out the way. Now if I try and get down low into the water, I'm just checking the depth of the water as well. It's nearly up at my welly. So if I can rest it on that stone, I think what I can do is move forward, climb these rocks and move forward and see if I can get closer to the falls and just see if that gives me a different image. Oh, I've got a nice, well, this is really nice. So I've got the tip of the falls at the top of the image. I've got this running water straight in front of me between these two bricks. So I'll just reduce the ISO, whoops, I'm going to reduce the ISO to 320. So my first shot, I'm going to focus in on these rocks right in front of me. So I've got all the detail of the rocks. I've moved the polarizer, so I've got a 30th of a second, I've got f8, I've got ISO 400. So I've now got a clear photograph of, I might get the two waterfalls. I've got a clear photograph of the water coming on the left hand side through the rocks, and then the water coming through the middle of the rocks. Now, I'm going to put my hand in front of the image because this would be a nice photo stack. So if I can get clarity from the front right through to the back, that could be really nice. Okay, so as I was coming down for the falls, the water that then flows down to another small waterfall which is inaccessible, there's actually some nice water formations coming down between the rocks. So what I've done is, actually, do you know, there was less midges over there than there is here. I'm zooming in on the water that's flowing down. I've had to increase my ISO to 800 because it's really dark in here, because I still want to maintain my 30th of a second shutter speed and my aperture f8. So I've taken that shot, maybe a quick exposure bracket. Now the other shot that looks quite nice, I don't know if it'll turn out to be quite nice, is if I get a wider image of those falls. So if I just turn my camera around and I still have that small waterfall coming down, I'll just adjust the polarizer to there and I'll take this shot. There's a nice composition just down here on the corner, because when I was just mentioning ferns there, I've just spotted a tree on the corner. So if I turn my camera around, yeah, so now if I level this leg up and then if I turn this back on again, I need to level it up even further. Right, so what I'm trying to achieve here is, as the water flows down right and then down left, there's a lot of saturated moss, saturated trees, and I'm trying to see if I can get the atmosphere for those trees into the image. So I'm focusing in, not on the rocks, but I'm focusing in on the gorge, and I'm going to try and see if we can get that in such a way, and the way that I see it here, because it's quite warm. So at the back of the, so when I say it's quite warm, it's quite orangey green, but in the back of the viewfinder it looks quite bluey. So from the viewfinder it looks quite cold, but in reality it's a lot warmer than it looks in the viewfinder. So I'm going to zoom in further, because those ferns and that tree are really nice. Now, they look nice. So what usually happens is when you come and you see a composition, you go, oh, that's a cracker. When you get home and you load it in the computer, it's not always the same as what you saw when you were on location. So the other thing I've noticed, there's a lot of plants that have fallen down from the rhododendrons, and they're sitting on the rocks. However, they're all kind of bunched up, and to be fair, I know you're not meant to kind of fabricate a composition, but there's a leaf down here that looks like a leopard skin. I don't know if you can see that in that camera. So what I think I might do is position that leaf where I could use it as a kind of leading line, as a composition with the water in the background, and just see if that would make a good shot. I've never done that before, but who knows? It might work, it might not work. Let's try it and see. So I think what I'll do is I'll move up to the ferns. I'm going to change my battery because I've got a warning that my battery's dead, and I'm going to see if there's a composition that I mentioned earlier where I can take photos of the ferns with the waterfall in the background. Right, so I found, whoops, not a strong bit for my tripod. So I found a fern. I'm just setting up the camera. I've changed my battery. That's quite a nice image actually. So I found, without actually doing very much, I found quite a nice image of a fern. So I'm just going to take a shot. I'm taking this shot because, well, that is good. So there's a small breeze, they are moving around, but the 30th of a second has actually helped. So I'm just going to zoom in now and see if I've got a different, what I'm trying to do is get the waterfall. So I'm trying to get the waterfall, which is blurred out, to come in from the top left hand side of the screen. I've got the fern that's pointing up towards the waterfall. I'm just going to zoom in on the fern, get that in focus, take the shot. Hopefully it's not too blurry. No, that's nice. Alright, so I've managed to climb to the top of the falls. It's got quite warmer. It's got here about 7:15 in the morning. It's now 9:30. So it's getting brighter, so I've reduced the ISOs in the cameras. I'm now going to walk my way up the river because there's some nice rhododendrons that I'd mentioned earlier, and I've got my camera set up. So what I have here is I've got the rhododendrons on the left hand side, the rhododendrons on the right hand side, and I've got this beautiful clear water right in front of me. And what I'm trying to do is just make sure I've got enough space around them so that I've got some of the mountains, or the mountain mist in the top left hand side. I've focused into the centre of the image. I've got a 30th of a second. I've lowered my ISO to 125. I can't quite find a comfortable place to stand. I'm just going to do a exposure compensation. Right, so I've got that shot. Now what I can start to do is look at other compositions to think, right, what would make quite a nice photograph. So if I zoom in now and just raise the camera, and then I've got the two rhododendron bushes in the centre of the image. I'm just going to adjust the polarizer to make sure it's in the right place. So I now need to check my focal point. So there's a small waterfall in front of me. I'm going to focus in on the rocks beside that waterfall. Take the shot. I'm just going to check that the shutter speed's still okay for this water. Yeah, the shutter speed's perfect for this water. I'm just going to do a quick exposure compensation for this scene. And then what I'll do is I'm going to turn the camera over to portrait mode and then see if there are other image opportunities at this angle. So right away I can see if I adjust the polarizer. So right away I've got rocks in the foreground. I've got a rhododendron bush and the tip of a rhododendron bush in front of me. The water is absolutely glorious here. It's so clear. And I'll focus in on those little falls again. I've made the adjustments. So I've got a ISO 125, a 30th of a second shutter speed, an f8 aperture. Again, I'll do a quick exposure compensation just to make sure I've got that dynamic range available to me if I need it. Now, what I'll do is I'll zoom in further into these falls. I've got that in focus, because my focal point is the centre. My focal point is those two small waterfalls coming in from the left and the right. Because my foreground's all water, it doesn't need to be sharp, because I like that softness in the foreground. And the colour range here is amazing. You've got all the blues, the greens, the browns, the salmon pinks all underneath the water, highly saturated by the water. And then you've got all the pinks and the greenery all around it with the plants. So, right, so that's that image. Right, so we've got the big lens. Let's turn it on. I've swapped the polarizer over just so we can see. Right, so this gives me a completely different perspective now. Wow. Right, so if I focus in and I adjust the polarizer on this lens, I might have to tweak the ISO up a bit and then take that shot. Now what I've done is I've cropped in on the waterfalls themselves. I'm now going to focus in on that centre waterfall and just see what kind of image I can get actually I've got quite a nice shot. I'm going to have to reduce the ISO, it's still too bright. So I'm going to put the ISO back to 125. I'll zoom in on the rock, the top rock that the water's coming down on. I'll take the shot, and that's nice. Well, I haven't walked very far from the rocks as I work my way up the river, but I've got an amazing scene in front of me. There's a series, there must be a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rapids, and they're all framed with these rhododendrons. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm going to take a short landscape first, and then I'll just do a quick exposure compensation. Right, so I'm now finally in the river. Whoops. Oh, and these rocks are quite slippy. So, let's get cracking on. This is the shot I was after when I seen it up the top, because the colours here are amazing. So I'm just focusing in on the rock where I've got a funny feeling this might have to be... See, I've got the waterfall on the left hand side, and I've got this little fall that I was taking images of earlier there, and what I'm going to do is zoom in a bit. Oh no, I was zoomed in, so if I zoom out, that's really nice. Actually, before I start changing things, I've zoomed out. I'm just going to focus in on this again. I'll take this shot because that's really, really nice. And then with the waterfall up there, what I might do is just do a quick exposure bracket. It's amazing. It's actually amazing the transformation that those rhododendrons have made to this area, because the last time I was up here, those were not out. Right, so let me zoom in now and let me see. What I'm going to try and do is get tighter in and get those falls with those falls, and there's a wee dribble in the middle. And let me just check I've got this focused properly. I'm at F8. I'll try that again. What I might do is go up to F11, because midges. Well, I hope you enjoyed those photos. It's been an amazing morning down here at Glen Etive. I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that'll notify you the next time I post a video. So from Glen, Etive, thank you, and here's to the next time.